So my mission here on this YouTube channel is to help you, if you are a business owner, make more money and have an easier life. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how we can increase your profit and lifestyle without necessarily doing any extra sales, but focusing on 3 or 4 key elements of your business and questioning whether those elements are good enough. And therefore, at the end of this video, you will be able to assess yourself whether or not one or all of the elements need some work to improve them, to see if we can help you increase profits and increase your lifestyle. So let's get straight into it. I've been thinking about this in the last week or so, about this little formula. It came to my mind and I've written it in my best handwriting so that you can hopefully read it. The formula is simply this: price, the price of the thing that you sell, plus your belief level over the quality of what you deliver, plus the perceived value, equals profit and lifestyle. Now, I appreciate that when you run a business, there are multiple levers that need pulling to make it all work so that you get the profit that you need. We've got to sell more of the things that we do or we offer, the service or the product that we sell. We've got to actually deal with perhaps staff and team members, suppliers, deal with all the administration that goes with it, and the time management of everybody and anything involved. Okay, so there's lots and lots of things that we can work on. But I just wanted to pick up these points here because I think that actually if we dig into them, which we'll do in a second, as we dig into each one of these elements, you might discover that actually it leads to other things, and there hopefully will be some points where you can go off and make a couple of changes and actually start to see the effect quite quickly. So let's start up here at price plus belief. When people start out in business, it's quite a common thing. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. And so I've seen people starting out in business, and I've seen people and worked with clients who are still with us after 10, 15, 20 years. So I can see their progressive journey. And what happens is we all do this. We start up in business a little bit green, not quite sure of what to do and where to go. And we've decided that this is what we're going to sell, the service or the product we're going to sell. And we need to pick a price. How much should we charge? Now, that could be an hourly rate. It could be for the product or service. It could be a guide that you're looking at to sort of say, well, that's my benchmark figure. And you might do your own little calculations. And it might be based on what you have or had back then as your lifestyle. And this is where the trap that people come into is that if you were employed beforehand, and let's say you had a salary of £30,000 a year, you might say, well, I'm going self-employed and the whole point is to make more money, so I want £50,000 a year. Great. So you've benchmarked it based on this information back here. But what happens is, over time, we should increase that because of our experience, our knowledge. We get better at running a business. But what can often happen is it actually falls away. The gap between where we should be charging for the product and services versus where we are. And I can give you an example of that in my own industry. I've run an accountancy practice in the back of everything that I do. And I've been doing that since I've been in the accounting industry since the 1980s. And we used to charge for tax returns back in the 1980s about £250 for a typical tax return. And today in the accountancy industry, I can guarantee you can find accountants who are charging £250 for a tax return. And you might say, well, it's all because of its technology and it's all quicker. And I was having to think about this because it is actually relatively quick to use software to submit a return. But some returns are really quite simple from a professional point of view. The information that's needed is relatively straightforward. Once you have it, you just got to know what box to put it in, etc. But it was the same back in the 1980s when we did it by hand. We filled up the form by hand, put information in a box, put the return in an envelope, then posted it to the revenue. The amount of work involved back then versus the amount of work involved today to do a very straightforward tax return is negligible in terms of time. But yet the price hasn't changed one bit. The perception of that price and of the technology has meant that in real terms, there's a massive gap just from an inflationary point of view over 30 years. Just from an inflationary point of view. That might be happening in your business because you picked your price some time ago based on your thinking some time ago, and you haven't really revisited it to question whether or not you can increase that. Let alone the fact that you may not have actually done any proper maths around your price. So if we were to go off and produce, say, for example, a budget, a financial budget for your business, even if it was a simple one, and you said to yourself, well, I need to make this by the end of the year because I feel like my lifestyle needs to increase. And then you work backwards. Ultimately, it comes down to the amount of things you sell, the amount of services you sell this year, and the price you sell it for. So if you increase the price, you don't need to do any more work. But I know what you're going to say. Well, people won't buy at the new price, but we'll cover that in a minute. Okay. But the point of it is that the simple maths of getting to your profit is based on some relatively simple numbers of I sell this thing for this price, and therefore I need to sell X number of them this year to achieve that sales target. And the costs that go with that will come off of that sales target, and I'll be left with a profit, and I'll have my lifestyle as a result of it. Now, those numbers, those things that you sell and that service you do, maybe you haven't challenged that for a little while. And maybe if you actually challenge those numbers and ran those numbers on a simple spreadsheet or a complex budget and forecast piece of software, you might then start to understand that the lever that you need to pull to give the biggest impact is actually to increase my price. And if you work on increasing your price, there's a couple of things that you might discover. One, actually you can just put the price up and nobody takes any notice because maybe you haven't put the price up for a while. Or two, you might start then having a sales resistance, as I mentioned earlier, that you think that your customers won't pay for that, which leans us nicely into the next one, which is the belief level. And that's why I've put belief there. Because the question is, first thing you should be asking is, do you believe that you can sell your product or service for more? What evidence do you have that you can't put your price up? And a lot of people will say, don't you read the news? Don't you see what the government are doing? Don't you? Yeah, I do read all that and I do hear all that way too much. I do my best to ignore it all because the reality, it's just bad news. Your price for the service and product that you offer to your customer is going to be based around the ability to convey the message to them, to get them to understand the value of your service or your product. Now, if you're in a competitive world and you've got a product or a service that is benchmarked by everybody around you, you've got a harder job because it's a competitive price. But I guarantee if you look out and around, you'll find things at considerably more, the price will be a lot higher, get my words out. And if you actually do some research, you'll realize that other people in your industry are charging more. An example, this week we were talking to a solicitor. We've got a couple of legal people in our client base, and the question they were dealing with in their own mind was their hourly rate was going from £300 to £350. And they were struggling with that. They knew they had to do it. And they were challenged by a friend of theirs who was also in the legal industry in a neighbouring town. They both went to uni together, they studied together, and they were doing the same job. And the friend was saying, well, I can't charge more than £250 an hour because I won't be competitive. And so we had this conflict going on in the conversation, and it was challenging our belief level. Now, the fact that the legal person we were talking to was already charging 300, which was more than the person down the road, meant that we had some evidence that we could charge more. Now, then you start looking around other places, you realise that the fees could be higher. In the coaching world, you can find online courses on Udemy for £7. But this week I was looking at some courses from a guy that I follow on YouTube, and he was charging £6,000 for a half day. There's a massive gap between the two. Does that mean the information was better? Does that mean that the product or service is better? Well, That's why we have the word quality here. Maybe that's something that you need to challenge within your own business. Maybe when you started out, you were quite good at what you were doing, what you do, the service or the product you offer, you were actually quite good at it. But over time, have you not got better? Have you not got more experience? Have you not become wiser? All right. So as we go through our business career, we have to challenge ourselves on these things, the price of what we sell, the belief level in that, and the quality. Now, where you get to a point where you reach perhaps what you perceive as a commoditized product or service, or a product or service that you can't lift the price anymore. For example, we've got a client who are musicians and they were selling CDs at the end of a gig, and they were selling tickets for a gig. And there's only so much people are prepared to spend to come and have a night out listening to music, and only so much people are going to spend for a CD, okay, an album. There's a limit because it's set by the masses as to what it is. So what we got them to do was to think about another way of selling their services and products, and wrapped it in a completely different offer. And through a lot of thinking, a lot of hard work from their perspective, in terms of changing their belief level towards their audience, they came up with a completely new product that they added on top of what they were doing. And now suddenly the whole thing came together. They started selling musical walking holidays. Now, a musical walking holiday was promoted at every event that they sang at, where they sold tickets and CDs. And that then became the driver for building the relationship with people, where people would go, I like these guys, they're really good, and I can go on holiday with them. That would be such an amazing opportunity to go and actually have this magical time with them on holiday in the locations where they created the music, and maybe they'll sing some of the songs out on the hill where they created that sort of thing. So it changed the entire experience completely, but yet they're still selling music and singing songs and all the rest of it. We just had to find something else we could put onto it. Now, it could be that you're charging an hourly rate for the thing that you do, but you've done the thing so many times that you can now actually put it together as a package. And so now, instead of selling it at X pounds per hour and then just taking as long as it takes, and it pretty much takes the same amount of time, why not take that and say, well, actually, we can have that package now, and we can sell it for a fixed price. Now, here's where the fun comes, because when you start looking at this, you could then work on things that could improve the quality for the customer. And that could be things like the speed that you deliver it. So you can have this service, it's X amount of pounds for this fixed service that we do, and we can come in and we can do this, and we can guarantee that it's all going to work well because we believe it's the best thing and that's the price it's going to be. Customers go, great. Or alternatively, you can have our super duper elite package, our advanced package, our pro package, whatever you want to call it, and it's 50% more or 100% more or double the price. You can play with the price, and the difference between it is the first package, we can come and do that in a month's time, and it takes us about 3 weeks to do the job. But this one, we can start next Monday, and we can do the whole thing in a week. So we can do it a lot faster, but it costs a lot more. Okay, but we can come in and actually solve that problem for you. These are just, I'm talking a very high level here, because I don't know what your business is. If you were sitting in the room, we would dig into this in detail, but I'd be asking you about your price. Where did you get the price from? Here's something about price as well. You say, I've said to some people, where did you get the price for? How much do you charge for that? And they look at you and I go, no, come on, where did you get it from? And they go, well, I just made it up. And so their entire business, which has been now running for 5-10 years, actually started from a made-up number. There was no logic behind it other than they just plucked a number out of their arse and went, that's what I'm going to do. And maybe a bit of luck and it's working. Well, if we go back and dig into this, what if we could just crank the price up by 10%, 20%, 30%? You will agree, I'm sure, that if you could increase your sales price, not lose any customers, increase your sales price, with no extra costs, it's got to have an effect on your profit, a positive effect on your profit. It's going to increase your profits. If you do the maths, and again, back to running some budgets and running your own numbers, if you actually do the maths and you put up your price, and as a result of it, you did lose some customers, you didn't win as much business as a result of a higher price, you might make the same amount of profit next year. But you wouldn't have to work so hard. You wouldn't have to put so many hours in. Maybe you work a 4-day week and earn the same amount of money as you do a 5-day week. That's something that I looked into many years ago when I was absolutely broken from the hours of work that I was doing, because I thought, hashtag team no sleep, up early in the morning, work till 10 o'clock at night and see if I can put in a few weekends and get over the line, because I was building something and I was motivated by the hard work. Until in the end, the hard work was beginning to have an effect on my mental health, my family and everybody around me. It was hard work. And my coach was talking to me about putting my prices up, not to increase my profitability, but to literally buy back my time. And that's something that motivates me massively, is my lifestyle, particularly as I get older. Time is much more important to me when I'm in my late 50s than it was when I was in my late 20s. Okay, suddenly becomes really, really important because it's running out. So I'd rather have the time to do the things that I want to, rather than just earn another pound. Now, that doesn't mean to say I'm not chasing the profits, because if I can have both, brilliant. But once you start understanding this, you realize that you can build and shape your business the way you want to. So you can work on your price, work on your belief, and maybe you've got to work on your quality. Maybe you've been running your business for a while, you were pretty good at what you do, but you know, and you'll only know this yourself if you're honest with yourself, are you really as good as you should be? When was the last time you went on a training course? When was the last time you did a bit of self-study? When was the last time you actually looked at the rules and regulations and whatever you're doing? When was the last time you went to a trade show and just looked around you to see what else was going on? A lot of people don't. They're just like, oh, I've learned how to do this thing. You've got pretty good at it. You've been doing it for the last 5 years. Just keep doing it. Well, what the danger is, and this little line here that I've shown you here in terms of your business journey, it's not just a money line, but it could actually be an energy and enthusiasm line. And you might find that your energy and enthusiasm is also dropping off. You're a bit stale. You're a bit bored. Lots of people in our world are in the creative space. And sometimes in order to find that new creative energy you need, those new ideas, you need to go out to the world and look at things. My daughter is a computer games artist. That's what she trained in computer games. And she's drawing all these things. She's drawing castles and tombstones and all the stuff that goes on in games. And I was talking to her and I said, look, you need to go out, go and visit the museums, go and visit the old relic castles, go and visit the countryside and see the stuff in real life. Just see what an old-fashioned fireplace in an old castle really looks like, take some sketches of it, and then go back, and then you become more creative. And in doing so, that going out and seeing stuff gave her inspiration to do other things as well, because she was out having a think. Okay, the thinking bit is important. So maybe the quality of what you need to do isn't just about the thing that you do, it's about your thinking towards it. So these three here, price plus belief over quality plus perceived value. And I mention perceived value because perceived value is quite often an overlooked conversation within the sales and marketing sort of media and conversations and events that you might go to where you're trying to learn about marketing. They'll often talk about how to do a specific marketing thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, go off and this is how you do your posts on social media. This is how you create a video. This is how you put a sales letter together. This is how you do the copy. That's fantastic. But in amongst it, we have to remember that everything that we're selling to, the other person who is buying it from us isn't seeing what we see. The old adage of, I see a 6, but you see a 9. It's the same thing. It's just that you see it the other way round. And therefore, the thing that I believe I'm selling isn't necessarily the thing that you want to buy. An example of this is in the high-end luxury market. You might say we're selling a sports car or a boat or a jet because people want to buy these things, they need it. Well, they will see it from a different perspective. They will see it from either perhaps a status symbol. So really expensive handbags, watches will be about status, or it could be that they're going about those purchases because they're saving time. Buying a jet is going to save a business owner an awful lot of time because they can get from point A to point B very quickly if they're a high traveler, right? So they'll see it from a time aspect of it. And if we take that as an example, a private jet, the private jet salespeople will know this, but you might think, well, a private jet is all about the color and the fabric of the seating and, you know, the speed of it, the engine size and stuff like that. Well, it has an element to it, but the guy buying it might be simply saying, I just want the one that works every time and that gets me from point A to B as fast as I possibly can, because it's all about speed, and somewhere I can work while I'm on the plane, because I don't want to lose a single moment of time. So it'd be purchased for time reason. I'm just throwing these as I'm doing this video at you as we go along, but the perceived value is a really important thing to understand in your business. Question your business, the service or the product you sell, the thing you sell, this service, is that really what people are buying? In my own business years ago, I believed people would wanted to buy a tax return and a set of accounts, because that's what we did. We sold tax returns and accounts. But actually they don't. What they want is they want to trust somebody. They want to have somebody on their team that they can have a long-term working relationship with. As things pop up from time to time, as business owners, they're bound to pop up from time to time. They want somebody they can turn to that's got a knowledge of business and a skill within business that says, okay, my mission is to make money. You're the money guy. If I do these things, can you, and I need to check on you, can you talk to me along the way? Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I realized is that it was the relationship of the trust was the perceived value we were selling, not the itty bitty tax return that we were doing. That's why lots of tax returns, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, are still the same price after 30, 40 years in the conventional accounting industry. They're not in ours because we don't sell tax returns anymore. All right. We actually align everything that we do around the perceived value. What is it you want? This is just my thoughts of it today. Price plus belief over quality times the perceived value equals profit and lifestyle. Now, what if we increased all of these? What if we increased our price? What if we increased our internal belief level? And so let's say, for example, you took the thing that you sell and you doubled it. Is that a price problem or is it a belief problem? Probably it's a belief problem. Oh, I can't double my prices. You might smirk when I say that. Double your prices. And if it's not a belief problem, double your prices. Normally the price increase is going to reach a point where you don't believe you can charge more. Great. When you reach that point and you go, look, I don't believe I can sell my service for twice the price. Great. Is the quality good enough? If you put the quality right up, could you increase the belief level? I don't know, maybe. If then you looked at the perceived value the customer was getting, and you might need to do some research on this. When was the last time you got a bunch of testimonials from your clients? When was the last time you actually went and spoke to some of your better clients and said, look, I've got some questions to ask. Just help me here. You've been a client of mine for a little while. You've worked with me a little while. What is it that we do really good? What is it we don't do so good? Okay, be ready for the answers. Why did you come to us? What makes you buy from us? Why us versus the other guy? Okay, do some research onto it. And if we were to increase the perceived value, increase the quality, increase the belief level, increase the price, I don't see any reason why that doesn't have a knock-on effect, because ultimately you want to increase your profit and lifestyle, either by making a bit more money or making the whole thing a whole lot easier to run. I hope that was okay. It's a bit of a novel idea that I tried to present there to you just to get you thinking. And a lot of what I'm trying to do here is to simply just poke at you to get you to think about your business. I'm not here to tell you to make £1 million by the end of next week. What I'm here to do is to say you've got a business that is working, but probably you'd like it to work a little bit better, make a little bit more money, and just make the whole thing a little bit easier. If we can do that in a short period of time, you start to win. Now, over a period of time, over a longer period of time, this is why we work with our clients over a long period of time. If we can work with you on a regular basis, we can actually get you on the upward trajectory. And the difference between where you could be in, say, 3 to 5 years' time to where you are now could be colossal by these small incremental steps that we're constantly working along the way. Leave your comments below. Otherwise, see you in the next video.